welcome to the Glasstire Spring Preview for 2016. We are in the dying embers of 2015 this week. It is the week of December 31st, 2015.
New Year's Eve!
I'm Rainey Knudsen.
I'm Christina Reese.
And I'm Brandon Zek.
We've each selected 5 shows, and we're going to count them down. These are our individual picks for the top 5.
And note, these are for museums and nonprofits.
Museums and nonprofits who have released their schedules or who have updated websites.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, side-by-side series Larry Bell and Gabriel Daw. This is at the Amarillo Museum of Art opening in May. I don't have too much information on this show. Gabriel Daw, of course, North Texas-based artist known for his sculptures and his installations involving thread. Larry Bell, iconic Southern California light and space artist. I will be curious to see what this show is, if it's installation, if it's ambient, if it's something the viewer interacts with, and how they put these two artists together. Number 4, Made in Germany, contemporary art from the Rubel Family Collection. It's another Rubel Family Collection show. We previewed their 28 Chinese show at the San Antonio Museum of Art. This one is at the McNay Museum, also in San Antonio. The Rubels are shipping a lot of art to San Antonio. You know, the Rubels, as much as they're associated with Miami, which is where their collection is based, and as much as we want to associate Miami with everything that is wrong with the art world and with Western society, generally speaking, the Rubels are the real deal. They've been collecting since the 70s, and their German stuff, this is all late 80s, early 90s. I'm sure it will be a ton of Gerhard Richter and Polka and all those guys. My number 3 is Thorsten Brinkman, The Great Cape Rinderhorn, the more German stuff. This is at the Rice Art Gallery. And once again, as usual, the Rice Gallery is way ahead of everybody else because they've already lined him up for this show in the spring. It's opening in February. He's known for his photographs. They're beautifully staged, amazing compositions. He uses himself and then found objects, and he's going to come to Houston, find a whole bunch of objects, and create, I think, some sort of photography studio in the space. Number 2, Sculpted in Steel, Art Deco Automobiles and Motorcycles, 1929 and 1940 at the MFAH.
Yeah.
Look at the images of these cars. 14 cars they're bringing inside the museum and 3 motorcycles. When a car was a sexual object of desire, not just, you know, a thing that you got from A to B. Number 1, Mark Flood, Greatest Hits at the Cam, opening April 29th. Oh, you know, one of the things I like about this is that we bitch all the time about Texas museums giving such short shrift to Texas artists. And the Cam, by golly, has been really making an effort. They have shown Texas artists. And finally, we get a solo show, because that's what it's all about. Of course, Mark Flood had to go elsewhere to get success before he got a solo show at the Cam, but we won't talk about that right now. 30 years of work. If anyone knows how to bite the hand that feeds him, it is Mark Flood.
So my 4 and 5 are kind of combined. It's self-taught art from the Smither collection. That's, of course, Stephanie and John Smither, who are highly involved with the Orange Show, Smither Park, everything like that. That show is going to be at the Menil. It opens June 10th. Self-taught art and folk art is really kind of in vogue right now. So to go along with that, at the Art Museum of Southeast Texas in Beaumont, there's going to be folk art from their permanent collection that opens June 18th. So my number 3 is What Shall We Do Next at DiverseWorks in Houston. It's a show that opens January 15th. It's DiverseWorks' first show at their new Match location. The show is based around technology and advertising culture. So it's 4 artists, Daniela Dean, who's a core fellow, Kristen Lucas, who's on staff at UT, Julien Previeux, who I believe he's based in Paris, and the Miami collective Versace. Not a rap song. But it'll be interesting to see how DiverseWorks treats their new gallery space, because they finally have a nice clean white space, so how will that change their feel? My number 2 is Goya at the Blanton in Austin. The show's Goya Mad Reason. It opens June 19th, and it's going to be a bunch of prints from the Yale University Art Gallery. It has the Disasters of War series, the Art of Bullfighting series, the Follies series. Linked into printmaking, my number one is actually at Big Medium in Austin during Print Austin. It opens January 15th and runs through February 13th, and it's Melissa Brown. She was recently in a show at Mass Gallery that I actually wrote a review of and really loved, and she had some great paintings. But this is actually going to be a show of reduction lino cuts. They're just really beautiful and really beautifully printed. So she's been doing these since 1997, and they've never been shown as like a suite before, and I'm stoked about this show.
All right, so my 5, counting down, The Art of Sebastian. Sebastian is he uses just the one name. He's the Mexican artist who does these truly monumental kind of city symbols. They serve as almost like gates to certain parts of cities. You've seen them. I'll show you some images. This is his smaller works that actually fit inside a building, a museum. He does a lot of interesting kind of sculptures. He actually pioneered a kind of a technical kind of sculpture that's very, very changeable. It's like the first Transformers. My number 4 is at the Amon Carter. I have such a soft spot for the Amon Carter anyway. This is a show by Anthony Hernandez, the photographer. He's an LA-based photographer. He's been doing work since the 70s. He used to photograph people in urban environments, and more recently he's been doing unpeopled. It's developments that have been abandoned, especially in the desert of California. So suburban or ex-urban developments that were started and then never really came to fruition. And there's something very poignant about that. It's very different from the sort of Detroit version of ruin porn. I think it's much more personal. And points even more toward a kind of an economic meltdown for the middle class, basically. Jeff Zille is at the Dallas Contemporary. This is my number 3. That opens January 17th, very soon. I spoke to Jeff. I know that this is going to include not just his big paintings that people know, the film paintings where he takes the film stock and dissolves it and turns it into pigment and then makes these big abstract paintings. This is what he's been known for over the last couple of years. He's really skyrocketed. But I've always loved everything else that he does. His text pieces, his much more conceptual stuff, his videos, and he's including all of that in this show. Number 2 on my list is Frank Stella. It's the retrospective that Michael Opping curated that has been at the Whitney and is still at the Whitney through February. And then it's coming home, I guess you want to say, to Fort Worth. So, the consensus about Frank Stella, this is a big retrospective, is that his early stuff is great, and his later stuff is terrible. I don't know if I agree with that. I sort of like all of it. Last but certainly not least, or actually this is my number 1, is Mark Mothersbaugh at the Contemporary in Austin. I love this man. I love him the way I love Chris Burden. I mean, he's just... he does everything. He's a musician. He was a founding member of Devo. But he's done film scores and television series, soundtracks, and he's a sculptor, and he does drawings and paintings, and he's a true Renaissance man. He's very politicized, but he's playfully politicized. It should be everything. It should be music. I think that they're going to do a lot of documentation of early Devo stuff, which, if you know, is actually really performance art. It wasn't just music. And then all the way up to things that he's doing now. Oh gosh, I'm going to be at the opening. I don't ever want to meet famous people, but Mark Mothersbaugh, I would actually really like to meet because I love him so much, and I have since I was a little kid.
All right, everybody, eat some black eyed peas. Happy New Year. Enjoy your festivities, and get ready to go see some really good art this year.
Yeah, absolutely.